Hi, thank you for coming to my channel today. This is my very first official video ever. So for everyone who is watching this video, I'm saying thank you for coming to my channel, and thank you for being here. I have introduced what my channel is about. It's most especially for special moms and generally special parents, people who have special need kids that they cater to, whether you're a caregiver or just or a parent of a special need child. And this channel was created as a way to encourage people, to let them know that you're not alone on this journey. There are a lot of people out there who are still going through the same thing that you are going through. So we are all in this. So today I'm just going to be talking about our journey to getting the diagnosis of our daughter. And along the line, I'm going to talk about some symptoms that you can look out for in a child to know if the child has spinal muscular atrophy, because I'm sharing this out of my own experience. Why am I sharing this? Spinal muscular atrophy. Okay, first of all, let me apologize. We're going to be hearing from time to time. We're going to be hearing someone trying to interfere with this video, because it's just her way. She will want you to know that she's here, so you'll keep hearing her voice from time and time again. But I need her here. I need to have her very close so that I can observe her while I do this. So bear with us in everything. So I'm going to be sharing tips of symptoms to look out for in a child that has spinal muscular atrophy. God forbid, it's not your portion. I do not pray for that for you, but the truth is, no knowledge is a waste. You can see a child outside, and looking at the child and seeing some things, you can suggest to the mother, to whoever is taking care of the child, have you checked this out? Have you found out that, have you checked whether this is a problem? We've had cases of children who we knew that the problem that they have were neurological issues, but they were being sent to herbal homes, and those people, they just do whatever with them, and when they now get to the point where they don't know what else to do, they just leave them, or some of them don't even survive all of that. And even in our hospitals, most of our doctors are not very conversant with the spinal muscular atrophy. It's a rare disease, so many doctors are not conversant with it. So you could be saving a child's life. You could be saving a parent's life, even by the information that I'm going to share today. So I'm going to tell our story today. So stay with me. First of all, let me explain what is spinal muscular atrophy. It's a genetic neurological disease. It affects the muscles. Now, I'm going to explain in the simplest form how it works. Now, every cell in our body produces two kinds of proteins. They are called survival motor neurons. There's the SMN1 and there's this SMN2. So the production of these neurons is what helps our muscles to function, our cells to function properly. Now, in an SMA patient, the SMN1 is totally deleted or mutated. So because they don't have this particular protein in their cells, it affects the transmission of messages to the spinal cord. That's what it is. It affects. I just hope her sound is not affecting or not overshadowing what I am saying, but please just bear with us. So what happens in an SMA patient is that the SMN1 is missing, so they have only SMN2 in their cells. So the spinal cord is not able to transmit enough information to the brain for them to do everything they are doing. So you see, we who have our SMN1 and our SMN2 genes functioning properly, we do a lot of things with it's not a problem. Like, I'm lifting my hands now, I can turn my head, I can raise myself and perform anything I want to do, and it's almost like I'm not putting any thought to it. But when the SMN1 gene is missing, because of the break in transmission of these messages, they don't respond, they don't find it easy, they cannot move their hands as easy as I'm moving my hands, they cannot carry themselves up like this, to hold the head up could be a problem. They have issues. The idea is that they have issues with the muscles functioning properly. And the terrible thing, or the sad thing about the condition, is that it continually deteriorates. So as the person is growing, as the person is adding in age, it is expected that the muscle functions keep declining. And the truth is that almost everything in our body is made up of muscles. Our eyes, our tongue, our lungs, our esophagus, stomach is a muscle. Almost everything in our body is a muscle. So when there's a continual degradation of these muscles, you know what it means. You know what the general outlook to life is. So most times when people get the message of, or the diagnosis of spinal muscular atrophy, it's always very, very devastating for both the parents and both the child who is diagnosed. So I'm just going to tell our story of how we got to where we are. First of all, I had a very normal pregnancy. Throughout, very normal, apart from the first trimester struggles. Immediately I entered my second trimester, it was a beautiful pregnancy. My stomach was so small. I'm going to find a picture of the picture I took the day before I had, 2 days before I had my daughter. I'm going to put it here for you to see. My stomach was so small at 9 months. I had her at 8 months. At the time I had her, I looked like a 6-month-old pregnant woman. My stomach was so small, so she was a very small baby. So I went to the hospital normal on a Saturday for my normal antenatal care, and the doctor, after measuring with the tape, he was really concerned. He said I was 36 weeks, but I was measuring about 32, 33 weeks. So he was really concerned, and he asked that I go for a scan to find out what could be wrong, or why the baby wasn't putting on as much weight, or wasn't growing as much as was expected. Okay, so this was on a Saturday, and he said I should come back on Monday for the scan. So I went back Monday. I carried my handbag and strolled into the hospital happily. It's just to go and have a scan. And then during the scan, the person who was doing the scan looked at me and started asking me, did you feel a sudden gush of water at any point in time? I said no. Were you wet at all at any? I said no. So the way she was asking, I said I'm not a child. If I was wet, if my panties got soaked, I would have known. I have not had anything like that. So she said there's literally no amniotic fluid in your womb, and we have to induce you and get the baby out as soon as possible. So it was like, this was my very first full pregnancy, and I wasn't prepared. They told us it's 40 weeks before we would have our children. So I still had like 1 month to prepare. 1 month to prepare for the baby's coming. But here we were, and they said they had to get the baby out that evening. So I of course I called my husband. I spoke to my mom, spoke to some people who were in my life then, asked for people to pray for us and all of that. So I came back to the hospital that night, and I was induced at 12 midnight, and I went through labor up until 7 a.m. and I had my beautiful daughter by 7 a.m. She came out a very tiny baby, just 1.9 kg, very small, and they were concerned. She's too small, maybe they should put her in an incubator and all of that. But after checking, doing the preliminary checks, they said everything was okay. Her lungs were strong enough and all. So they just put her in her cot and put a hot water bottle beside her to keep her warm. But after some hours, we noticed that her temperature was rising, so they had to take out the hot water bottle, and that was it. So we started the journey. The nurses told me I had to feed her like crazy. She needs to put on weight and all of that. You know, we were in the hospital for 4 days. By the time we left the hospital, she had dropped to about 1.7 kg, and then they needed to monitor us continuously. So we had to be coming back to the hospital every two days for them to monitor her and make sure that everything was going well. So initially everything was going very well. She was, by the time we went back for 6 weeks, her 6 weeks immunization, she had gotten to 3 point something kg, and everybody were telling me, you're doing so well, you're doing, and we're exclusively breastfeeding. You know, everybody were telling me we're doing so well, she's putting on weight properly and all of that. And we continued this until her third month. We went for immunization. Yes, 3 months. Yes, after her 3 months immunization, that's 14 weeks. After we did the immunization, you know, we came back home, and I mean, she the normal milestones that you expected children to meet before 3 months, she met them, so to say. She was able to pull herself on the bed, as in she was able to pull herself while lying on her stomach. And then she could follow us, you know, she could use her eyes to follow you. She looked like she was meeting all of her milestones up until 3 months. So after the immunization, we came back home. I noticed that she wasn't keeping her legs straight after the immunization, but I just took it that maybe her legs were still paining her from the immunization. You know the swelling that happens on the after they get the immunizations in their thighs. So I felt maybe she was still feeling the pain and all of that. So I didn't take it seriously. Excuse me. 1 week later, she was still not responding. She was still not pulling her legs up, and I mean, that became a concern somehow. But being the kind of person that I am, I started doing my researches. I started going on Google to check some things and all of that, and some of the things that I was reading made sense. Because of her low birth weight, she was classified as, they would classify preemie babies. So there were some things to expect from preemie babies, and it looked as if, maybe because she's a preemie baby. But we did this up until 5 months, and I knew that there was a problem, because by that 5 months she had stopped pulling herself up on the bed. She was a lot cranky. You know, almost every time my mom calls on the phone, she was crying. My mom was angry because she felt I was starving her. Why would I be exclusively breastfeeding her? As far as she was concerned, I should go and get food and give this girl. It's because she's hungry. That's why she's always this cranky and all. But time went and everything. I by that fifth month, I became concerned, and that was when my journey to the hospitals began. We did all sorts of x-rays. They checked her hip, they checked her knees, checked her ankles, because as at then the concerns were in her legs. My concerns were in her legs. Her legs were not standing. When you lift a child in a standing position and place her on your legs, you expect that she tries to stand on your leg, but she wasn't doing it. So that was where my major concern was, and I related. So we did a lot of x-rays. The doctor said, don't worry, don't stress yourself, maybe she's just taking her time. Some children can be lazy and all of that. We did this 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. I knew that she was deteriorating. We had started trying to teach her to sit by 6 months, 7 months, and she the way she cried anytime we placed her to sit down independently, she would cry and cry. And then of course we felt a little bit of toughness. She needed a little bit of toughness, and so sometimes we just leave her there, stay there, and all of that. She would cry. If you're going to put her there, if you leave her there for 30 minutes, she would cry for those 30 minutes. And of course, what did we know? We didn't know it. Just a little knowledge we had. We just felt we needed to be a little more tough, a little bit tougher on her. We did that, and then I noticed that things were, one time my husband was asking, they were saying that maybe because we were not making her sit enough, maybe that's why she was forgetting how to sit. And I said, children do not forget how to sit. I mean, it's a natural thing. Anybody who is growing grows into these things. They don't forget how to sit. There's a problem here. And so of course by then we had gone to hospitals and all, and by this time she had stopped putting on weight. So she got to about 5.2 kg at that 3 months, and that was it. She didn't put on any more weight from that 5.2 kg at 3 months, and that was just it. So 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, she was still weighing she didn't go past 5.8 kg. And of course it was concerning to doctors. So there was no department that we did not visit. I visited endocrinology, I visited gastroenterology, I visited orthopedics, I visited cardiology. All scans, all kinds of tests, everything were conducted. We still did not know what was going on. When the gastroenterologist saw her, she was like, I'm very sure she has a hole in the heart. I am very convinced that she has a hole in the heart. By the time the gastroenterologist saw her, she was like, I'm very certain that she has a hole in the heart. And she immediately referred us to, and then the cardiologist saw her. The cardiologist, we did the ECG, the EKG, and all of that, and her heart was as healthy as anything. So at that point it was more or less like nothing. There's really like, what, when the gastroenterologist said she definitely had a hole in the heart, I heaved a sigh. It's shocking or surprising that they would tell you that your child has a hole in their heart, and you heave a sigh like, at least finally there's something. As in, at that point I wasn't thinking of the implication of her having a hole in the heart. My whole my relief was, we found out what was wrong. You understand? So it was when I went home, I started calculating, started thinking, okay, what does it cost to have a heart surgery? Are we going to do India or US? Or I started calculating all of those things. We were already running the numbers in our heads and all of that. And then we had 3 days to do the ECG, and so those 3 days were like very long 3 days. In my heart, I'd already told myself, okay, she has a hole in the heart. Oh, thank God that it is something that is even curable. Thank God that it's something that you can even do a surgery and all of that. That was my first reaction. Only for us to go the cardiologist see her and say there was nothing like that. And this was in Luth. Luth is like biggest teaching hospital in Nigeria. Okay, let me say in Lagos that I know. And I mean, this is where all the professionals are. all the specialists were, and it was as if we were at a bottleneck. We didn't know what the next step to take was. And then I was I don't know how I was mentally fagged out, because there's something wrong with this girl, but we can't find what it is. She was not eating. We were trying our best to get her to eat as much food as possible, and to the extent that we had to start force feeding her. And now let me give you a picture of what happens to SMA people with SMA. The esophagus, the muscles of the esophagus are so weak that when they eat food, they have a tendency to aspirate this food. The food has a tendency to run into the lungs, to run into that wrong hole that food will get into, and then you start coughing. The food has a tendency to always run into that hole. Now, we did not know that she had spinal muscular atrophy. We didn't know about that, and we tried to force her to get some food into her system. And the dangers with that was that she was aspirating food, and we did not know that she was aspirating food. So as time went on, she now got an infection in her, a respiratory infection. She had bronchial pneumonia, and that was another journey for us. Moved from hospital, when we're at a private hospital. They were treating for malaria. The doctor said she had sepsis. I have a love-hate relationship for the Nigerian medical profession. Forgive me. I have a love-hate relationship with them. Forgive me for that. But the doctor said she had sepsis, and my husband was mad. Like, what nonsense? Do you know what sepsis is? I mean, we're not illiterate. You don't throw words at us and expect us to take it and run with it. And my husband blasted them and told them to go to hell, whatever diagnosis they had and all of that. They treated her for malaria, treated her for infection, since we couldn't accept the sepsis because it didn't make sense. What is sepsis? And eventually we had to go to Luth. And then at Luth, that was where they found out that she had bronchial pneumonia. Her lungs were, she had food particles, water particles in her lungs, and her lungs were infected. And that was it. Whew. I'm seeing that this video is already too long, and I don't know. I think I should cut it, do another continuation. It's already about 25 minutes, 25 minutes long, and I think it's already too long. So I'm going to cut it here and continue the story in a second part. So I'm going to make it a two-part video. I'll see you in the next video.